patch, new builds, buffed builds. In this case, Savage Lion's Claw, which is quote-unquote an enhanced version of Lion's Claw, which I personally still, even after the patch, I still believe that Lion's Claw is better. Does that make this a bad Ash of War? Of course not. It's tremendously powerful, it's very overpowered, and all throughout the course of the gameplay you will see me abusing bosses because of how powerful this Ash of War. However, when you have something to compare it to, you might say that it's still better, worse, or not, depending on your needs. So let's just talk about the Ash of War on itself and see what are the benefits. The hyper armor that it has. While you're airborne, you have hyper armor. That hyper armor is nearly infinite while you are airborne. As soon as you touch the ground, you still have some decent hyper armor, but it's not going to be as amazing while you are airborne. Now, one amazing thing about both Savage Lion's Claw and Lion's Claw in itself is that there's many enemies that have very precise iframes, or hitboxes, I'm sorry, I should better say. That's why we love Elden Ring, because the hitboxes on this game are very thin, very precise. It's not only about the iframes that you have while dodging, but also where does the enemy's hitbox and the weapon hitbox hit you or may not hit you. So for example, you're performing the Savage Lion Claw. While you hit the ground, your character enters into this stage where they like crouch like a beast, crawling. And if there's a overhead hit, it's not going to deal damage to you. On the same case scenario, if they're doing something that you can jump on top of it and it doesn't hit you, you can still bypass that without trading damage. Although more often than not, with this Ash of War, you are going to trade damage. The stance damage is going to vary depending on the type of weapon that you are using. So for example, a colossal weapon, it's going to have 63.75 poise damage, meaning that if you hit twice the complete animation of the Ash of War, that's going to be more than enough for you to stagger enemies. That's also true in this case scenario. For this build, we're using a colossal sword, meaning that we have 51 poise damage, posture damage on the entirety of the animation. If you complete the animation twice, that's going to be more than enough to basically stagger most of the bosses that you have in the game. So in the patch 1.13, they increased the power, the attack power of the damage and the poise damage of the skill's first attack, which was 5% more damage and 25% more stance damage. One cool thing about it is that you can also cancel it. Well, not cancel it, but not continue the inputs for you not to have that. If you feel that the trade-off is not going to be that amazing, or that the enemy is going to move, which is going to happen more often than not. There's many very mobile enemies that move quite a lot throughout the battlefields, and if you feel that they are going to move on the second input, then you might as well just save that for a dodge or something that it should suit you better if you feel that you're going to receive damage but not deal damage. So that's something cool about this Ash of War. So stats. We have 60 vigor, 21 minds, 40 endurance, 70 strength, and then the dexterity that we have right there is just a byproduct of my starting class. This is just basically everything that you will have with this character. Ideally, we would have 80 strength. Remember that while you are two-handing a weapon with colossal swords, or well, especially with any weapon that has high scaling and strength, it's more beneficial because while you're two-handing a weapon, your strength gets a 50% more strength bonus. So ideally, it's better to have, like for example, strength at around 60. That will allow you to 63, I believe. That will allow you to have 99 strength, which is the cap of the game. But while you are two-handing the weapon, it actually goes beyond that point. So ideally, right here at 70 strength, we don't really have 70 strength. We have much more than that because of the 50% extra strength. And also, that being the case, the Ash of War just takes the scaling for the value damage of the strength on itself that you have, so it doesn't matter if you are two-handing or one-handing the weapon, the Ash of War is still going to deal the base damage of the strength that doesn't scales out of either your two-handing or one-handing your weapon. So 70 strength right here, it's ideal. If you want to pop it up to 80, that's ideal as well. Our endurance, we are using very heavy armor. You don't have to. I'm still going for the Guts cosplay in here, but you don't really have to. It's just this Ash of War, you can allocate it in any, like, virtually anything that allows you to do so, and it's still going to perform well. It's just that for this build we have like this right here, so that's what we're going to be using. It's very costly on mines, but also you're going to kill things fast, so it doesn't really matter that we don't really have that much mines, not much. As for everything, I'm just using the heavy greatsword. If I need to block with my weapon, if you need to block with your weapon, this is a perfectly safe option to do so. We have quite a lot of guard boost, we have 61 guard boost right here, and we also have quite a lot of endurance, which allows us to be able to bypass some of the attacks of the enemy. With this amount of endurance and this amount of guard boost, you can bypass one stampede of Commander Gaius without any kind of issues, so that's actually kind of nice, and it has 84 physical damage negation. That being said, for the armor, we're using the complete armor of Solitude without any helmets. This gives us 82 poise right here, which is more than enough. It's even more than the 51 that we usually need. For the Talisman, we're still going to be needing the Great Your Arsenal, and then the rest of the things, it's a little bit more versatile. There's not many things that are going to increase our damage that much exponentially. We can be using the 200 soul Talisman, but remember that this is not going to alter the damage that you're going to be dealing with the Ash of War, which is the main focus on this build. That is not to say that doing basic regular attacks with this weapon is not going to be at all that bad. As a matter of fact, if you charge your heavy attacks, it's usually going to give you 2k damage, 2.5 or 3k in some instances, depending on what type of enemies and resistances and things are you fighting. So it's also a nice idea to have the Axe Talisman, and then the Shard of Alexander. This is actually a must, and then we have the overall, the usual talismans that we would use for support, the Dragon Crest Shield Talisman. Actually, I like to use Dragon Crest with this build quite a lot because, like I said, there's not many things to potentialize damage because it's already huge. So might as well just, and you're going to be hitting, you're going to be trading quite a lot of hits. You are going to be receiving quite a lot of the damage. So might as well use something that is going to negate even more of the extra damage that you're going to take. Because yes, by all means, with this build, if you want to complete the animation more often than not, you are going to be trading hits with the enemy. As for the mix of Wondrous Physique, we're using the stone buff, Crackthea, because this increases the poise and stagger damage that we deal to the enemy. That being said, we already have like quite a lot of poise damage, so in here a little bit more, it doesn't hurt anyone. It's just a nice little consequential little something to have right here, because there's not that much versatility that you can have with this build. Although if you really want to potentialize your damage to the outmost level and try to get a little bit extra little cheap damage around here and there, let's discuss about that, because you can by all means be using my personal favorite. This is a very stat hungry build, I'm sorry this is a very stamina hungry build, meaning that the Green Burst Crystal Tia, this is going to be our best friend. But if you're very good at managing your stamina, you can by all means be using, for example, the Magic Shrouding Crack Tier. Why is that? We have very good greases on the game, so if you, for example, grease your weapon with magic damage, you buff your weapon with magic damage, this is extra 20% of that extra little extra damage. It's not going to be that much, but it's a little extra something. And if you, depending on the type of grease that you're using to infuse your weapon, you can be using any of the elemental crack tiers that we have right here. And also remember that our strength is sitting on 70. If you actually want to reach the hard cap of your character on strength, you can by all means be using the strength nut crystal tier. There's a lot of versatility in here to be had in here, because none of this is mandatory, none of this is just the build established as it is. It's just powerful and very OP right now as it is, because of how much damage you can dish and because of how much damage you can trade in between. So there really is not that much of a consequence on which kind of crystal tier are you choosing for yourself. Overall, I still prefer, I think that I'm going to be making a video now that we have this patch. I have been testing extensively both of these Ashes of War, and there's pros and there's cons, and I still think that Sava, that the original Lion's Claw is better, for reasons that, again, I'd say it would take a entire video, which we are going to do, to explain why is it one better than the other one. But that doesn't mean by all means that if you want to use it, it's a very cool looking Ash of War. And as you see on the gameplay that you have in the background, it's very effective, it's very high damaging, it staggers bosses quite a lot, and it's a very usable Ash of War to be used. And now that it has been buffed, you have more base damage on the first animation of the attack and more stagger poise damage. So that's always kind of nice. Anyways, if you like the content, like never super appreciate it. And also you are just a beautiful person, you're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, like the video. I'll be seeing you beautiful people in the next one. Have a great day, goodbye.